think of them as handsome in some sinister way, just maybe not so hairy. On the other hand, Dr. Renfro was comic book classic in that he was charming and very good at lying. He poisoned me and experimented with memory drugs on my parents and a bunch of innocent oldsters at Oakview Convalescent. But Casey swooped in before I splattered in a public demise at the hands of Dr. Renfro and his partners in crime. Amber snagged the bad guy. A happy ending? Here's the problem. I can't tell Mags, my best friend in the entire crazy universe, the truth. Instead, I have to stick to the far less believable story that we attempted a crazy skydiving stunt right before Christmas, and that in the process, we accidentally helped bring down a crime ring that wanted to weaponize Dr. Renfro's memory drugs. Luckily, people's memories are sketchy enough on their own. That's what Casey says, and he should know, given his weed-addled brain. But I agree. What with us all watching YouTube videos and downloading internet porn, like my brother used to do before he ended up on Heaven's payroll, not that he gets paid. Besides, being famous for weird stuff only lasts so long at school. Take a deep breath and some idiot is sending a picture of herself in her underwear, and her boyfriend is forwarding it to the entire student body. Plus, Casey still looks like Casey. Not that I ever thought much about what angels would look like. But I guess if I did give it pause, I would picture them in white sparkly outfits, or maybe invisible, or wearing halos. Not sleeping in the room down the hall from me, passed out in a Mountain Dew t-shirt next to half-eaten Jack-in-the-Box tacos. I hate that I have no alternative but to lie to Maggie. Maybe someday I can tell her the truth, that Casey isn't quite Casey anymore. I'd tell her all the rest of it too. But if there's one thing I've learned about the angelic world, it's that there are rules. Flying under the radar is a big one, meaning do not tell. All I could do was ramble about how many buttons I should leave undone, and did Maggie think we should paint our faces red and blue in the Spring Creek colors? Which is more school spirit than I normally work myself up to, and definitely more than I had last year when I was still at I'm a Hog Junior High. I couldn't talk about how people had basically forgotten the whole Galleria thing because there had never been a trial. Someone had paid Dr. Renfro's bail, and he disappeared without a trace. I couldn't talk about Manny, the owner of Manny's Real Tex-Mex in Houston, the shady criminal who was blackmailing Dr. Renfro, because Manny had also conveniently vanished. I couldn't talk about how Casey was effectively grounded from using his wings in public, or that the guys who caused the whole mess weren't ever going to be dragged to justice. It was easier to think about my boots, which, by the way, I loved. They'd been a gift from Amber Velasco after my old Ariats had been destroyed, since that was how Renfro had been slipping the poison into my system. "Ryan is going to pee his pants," Maggie said, perking up once we had declared my outfit and me a finished product. "What's that about, Ryan?" asked my brother. There he was in the doorway. Now that he was an A-word, I definitely never said angel around Maggie, my brother was pretty light on his feet. Pretty nosy, too. "Get out," I told him. "I'm taking you and Maggie to the game." He lounged against the doorpost, looking perfectly put together in that way he had now. My brother's, mostly, previous weed habit had made him a bit fleshy. Not that it mattered then. Back before this whole mess started, he was a mostly do-it-yourself operation in the romance department. Now that he was no longer exactly human, he sported tidy hair and a toned six-pack, among other things. I found this not only annoying, but also supremely unfair. "Maggie's dad is taking us." "Not anymore. Call your dad, Mags. Tell him he can stay home in the lazy boy and watch Nat Geo. He doesn't know jack about football." What Mags didn't know. Casey had his own reasons for taking us, aside from dogging my every step. Lanie Phelps was cheering tonight. Lanie Phelps, my brother's ex 2 times over. First, she dumped him after he quit football and took up weed when our family life fell into the cesspool. They made up afterward. Of course they did. Because Lanie had no idea she was essentially dating a dead guy, and that part of the reason she wanted to jump his bones was the A-word pheromones, my phrase, he put out unless he concentrated on pulling them back, which he rarely did. To Casey's credit, their current breakup had been his doing. He didn't talk about it, but I knew he thought he was protecting her from the inevitable.